you, this is not going to be a Save the Planet talk. It's going to be a integrated delivery operating model talk. It'll be still 5 minutes of some boring introductions, 15 minutes of interesting insights. But how long the 5 minutes last, we'll start with this first question. How many of you have used Carousell or know of Carousell? Oh wow, okay. Okay, a few of you. Okay, that's good, that's good. So going to the next slide. So quick introductions on Carousell. We are the biggest Recommerce player, both marketplace and omnichannel, as well as retail, own inventory models across Southeast Asia. We started with humble beginnings, just a small app in our phase one, as you can see here. It was basically growing it vertically across different categories. Phase two, in the next 4 years, was more internationalization. We went into different countries, different verticals, cars. Phase three was the most interesting part, personally for me. That's when we became 1 billion valuation and a unicorn. But this is also where we started consolidating our position. We acquired OLX in Philippines. We acquired Muda in Malaysia, Chotot in Vietnam, and that was like phase three. Phase four is what I'm here to talk to you about. Somewhere around COVID, we realized the importance of the checkout flow, even in Recommerce. Traditionally, if you know Recommerce, like Facebook Marketplace or eBay, was only on a chat basis. You chat with your buyer and seller, you go meet up. But we quickly realized that there are edge cases. There are people who want to contribute to sustainability. People like a lot of you in the room who are time-starved, who don't want to go meet up. They just want a checkout flow and integrated logistics flow. So around phase four, one, we started integrating payments, escrow models, integrated logistics across different countries. But two, we also started adding trust by having our own warranty flows. We started certified mobile, certified cars, certified luxury, and some of them through owned inventory models with shops all around Southeast Asia. So as of today, you may know some of these brands outside Carousell. We are about in 7 countries, 8 different brands, some of them listed here, tens of millions of users across Southeast Asia. And we have every kind of thing for every kind of person, whether you want to live, you want to work, play. We cater almost every single category in every single market as long as it's legal. And with that, I think someone was asking me over dinner, so how do you describe Carousell? I think it's with our mission. It's making secondhand the first choice. So every single expansion we've done has been around circular economy, has been around Recommerce, and that basically is the foundation of our journey. So quickly also introducing what is Recommerce, what is circular economy to some of you who may not know everything about it. Linear commerce, as you all know, is very simple. Something gets produced in a factory, then it gets sent over through your delivery integrations, e-commerce, retail flows, and used. What circular commerce does is actually an extension of this. And why? Is because the linear economy actually adds to a lot of waste and stress to our limited resources and constraints, right? We also have overconsumption happening with fast fashion, with now especially with the next day delivery models on e-commerce. You end up buying a lot of things that you don't need. And that kind of adds to, like I said, the stress on the planet. So what circular economy or e-commerce does, it allows you an endless loop in between this to reuse by buying and selling pre-owned items. And I want to stress on the word pre-owned here because it doesn't necessarily mean it's used. It can still be brand new. It can be something someone gifted. It can be something you bought and you didn't like, and you want to resell it back into this circular economy model. Of course, it avoids emissions in all the first 3 parts. It also avoids a lot of carbon footprint, right? So we did this study a couple of years ago. Just in Singapore alone, Carousell has saved about 153,000 tons of carbon emissions. And that's just a number, but what does it mean? Just in a single statement, that's charging all mobile phones in Singapore for 8 years. That's the kind of savings you can do in one market, in a small city market like Singapore. Imagine what we can do if you do this globally. So that's the importance of circular economy, and that's what we do. And that's, as I promised, my boring 5 minutes. And now I get to the interesting part, right? Which is the Recommerce logistics playbooks. And this is the most important part. This reminds me of a quote which says that strategy is the easy part. It's execution and operations that makes it difficult. And that's so true when it comes to Recommerce. We learned it the hard way. So in the first 8 years, 9 years of our journey, our model was simple. We had a chat flow. The buyer puts a chat in the chat window. The seller then gives a number or an address. They both meet up at a metro station and exchange goods, right? But we soon realized, as I was mentioning somewhere during COVID, that there's a lot of people like us here, as well as others, who are time-starved buyers, time-starved sellers, and some of them are also looking to make sure that once you ship or buy an item, the item is not a lemon, right? It still works. It's as you described. So there's a need for trust. There's a need for convenience at the right price. So with this, we thought, hey, let's just copy the e-commerce models. They have already established this. Why not launch it into Recommerce? So somewhere about 4 or 5 years ago, we came up with a couple of new models. We launched a buy button, which is a simple checkout flow. We had some integrated logistics, integrated payments, escrow built in the back end, warranty with certified, and we thought that's it. We've done it. We've built the features horizontally, and we are done, and now buyers will come. But of course, we learned it the hard way. The Recommerce is not e-commerce. E-commerce is very simple. You have the same seller selling thousands or tens of thousands, sometimes millions of items across the globe. So you can build efficiencies quickly because it's the same item being shipped hundreds or thousands of times. In Recommerce, you have millions of items being shipped millions of times. So there's basically no standardization. Simple examples. The way you ship a $15 Zara top versus a $200 drone versus a $1,000 mobile versus a $5,000 luxury bag or a $2,000 sofa. These are all different formats. And then you add another layer of complexity, is the humans, right? It's peer-to-peer. Every person packs differently. Every person has a different sense of urgency. And that makes e-commerce very different from Recommerce. And that's how we learned the hard way. So our first year of learnings, like I said, was, I would say, almost a failure. We still did decent amount of adoption, but we learned it the hard way, right? What we thought is very simple. Hey, why don't we just give a integrated courier that goes and picks up the item from the seller, delivers it to the buyer. That's it. It's so convenient, and people will love it. But the reality is, if you know reverse logistics, Recommerce is similar to that, right? The courier says, I'll pick up the item anytime between 9 to 6 p.m. And that's the time you're at work. So you're not going to be home to get the item picked up. And that's extremely inconvenient for the seller, right? For the buyer, maybe it's okay. They still receive it in their letterbox or outside their doorstep, especially in Singapore, where it's quite safe. So that was the biggest issue. The other issue was our AOV is about $15 to $20 in Singapore. The cost of a door-to-door delivery, this is through our partner JNT, was somewhere around $5. And then they also need you to print the label. Nobody has a printer in your house anymore. Like we are living in 2026. Nobody has a printer. And that was another friction point. So this model failed very quickly. And that's where we started to look at what is the right way then to look at Recommerce. And then it's going to first principles, the same way we built a lot of our category growth principles, etc. First, you identify who your user is, right? What kind of segment is the buyer or seller? Are they time-starved? Are they looking for convenience? Are they looking for price? Are they looking for trust? Then you have to look at which market they are in, because every market has its own nuanced shipping models, right? Some markets like Taiwan have a 7-Eleven Pudo models. Some in Singapore have different types of models like SingPost, you have Q Express, you have SPX. In the Amazon countries, you have the next-day shipping models. So every market is different, and the maturity and user behaviors and adoption will be different basis that. And then it's the category itself. Like I said, you can't ship a $15 Zara top and a $1,000 mobile phone the same way. You need different levels of packaging, different levels of safety, different levels of trust built into the system. Then you also identify the friction. Are people available 9 to 6 at the home? If not, how do you then make sure that you still give them avenues to ship in a frictionless manner? And that's how you then start building solutions within these particular boundaries. So these are the examples that I'm going to talk to you about. I would still say we are only 1% done. We haven't cracked it all, but our examples are very relevant for hopefully many of you in the room. So I'll start with Singapore first. So Singapore, like I said, we launched with door-to-door with JNT about 4 years ago, if I remember correctly. And the learnings were what I told you it were, right? Then we quickly realized the buyer and the seller, especially time-starved, one, need a very frictionless model to basically pick up or drop off the item. And we looked at then who are the providers in Singapore that can give us the most dense network of drop-off. And that was, of course, SingPost. So SingPost is our local Singapore Post company. We spoke to their CEO and we said, hey, why don't we look at a curated model where we offer pricing that is cheaper than your usual retail prices, and that makes it more relevant for people who are looking to either meet up in person, give them a very easy, frictionless way to drop off, and thus participate in this integrated delivery fashion. So we launched SingPost about 2 years ago. We launched it at between $2 to $3. There were still some friction points because even though you did not need a printer at home, when you reach the drop-off point, you still need to print a label using a QR code, stick it. You still need to pack the item and then drop it off, right? But having said that, we doubled or tripled our transactions from JNT to SingPost. But there were still these friction points. So somewhere last year, we got back to the drawing table and say, hey, how do we solve for these friction points and at a price point that is extremely attractive? So now we started talking to SPX, which is the logistics arms of Shopee. And last year, we have now come up with a new curated first ever Singapore model designed around Recommerce logistics. This just launched last month, by the way. So you probably haven't seen any marketing around it, but you can still find it on the Carousell app in Singapore, where users can now either get the item picked up or dropped off. And when you're dropping it off, you don't need a packaging. When you go there, you get free packaging. You don't need a printer. You just need to write down the number and give the item to the drop-off. And SPX has 500 drop-off points compared to SingPost, which has only 200. And we launched it at $1.8. So this is an unheard of price to make it extremely convenient. It gets delivered the next day and removes most of the friction. And hopefully this doubles our volume even more when it comes to integrated shipping. So this was a Singapore example. Quickly going to Taiwan. Taiwan was a different story. Taiwan is like 5 years ago. We quickly realized that most of the Taiwanese work quite long hours. Again, they're not used to getting the item picked up, but they have a 7-Eleven any 2 to 3 minutes of walking distance from any point in the city. And 7-Eleven already has a logistics network, which is a PUDO format. You can pick up and drop off any item through the 7-Eleven logistics network. So this was very easy. We integrated with 7-Eleven. Which means any seller can go and drop off the item at your nearest 7-Eleven. The buyer goes to their nearest 7-Eleven the next day, picks up the item, and makes the payment at the counter, which means we are not even doing the checkout payment flow on the app. That reduces our payment costs as well. So this is like a very innovative model, which we could then transfer the cost back to our users and make it even more cheaper than in Singapore. Now coming to my most favorite example, which is again back to Singapore. By the way, we've also done Malaysia with Post Laju, we've done Hong Kong with SF Express, but this comes closest to the model that we've been talking about. So this was a classic example where our biggest competition in Singapore was actually not any other player. It wasn't Facebook Marketplace, it wasn't Westair, it wasn't eBay. Our biggest competitor for our integrated delivery was our chat flow, our own chat flow, because it was so seamless that people could just meet up. And Singapore is so small, you can get to anywhere within $1 and within like 15, 20 minutes. So it becomes extremely convenient to pick up just by meeting up someone at a metro station. What you cannot do is do an exchange in person for a sofa or a bed frame. Or a wardrobe, right? And this was a classic problem. Singapore has 40% of its population that are expats. They are foreigners. They constantly churn their rental places. They keep on selling their designer sofas, wardrobes, beds, or buying new ones, right? So this is an existential problem. We do a lot of GMV on it. but it was never on the platform. It was a pain point felt by many users. Beyond that, it's not just delivery. Like, you can always do a Lala move and get it delivered. When it comes to a bed frame or a wardrobe, you need a handyman to disassemble it first. Then you need a Lala move to package it, transport it, and then you need another handyman to assemble it, right? So we sat down with GoGoX and we said, hey, this is a problem. How can we solve it at a price that is just unbelievable? So we now offer GoGoX, where a driver and a handyman, along with the driver, goes to the doorstep of the seller, disassembles the item, packages it, delivers it, unpacks it, assembles it at a price that is cheaper than if you do it together in different parts. And this was a service we launched last year. We've barely marketed it, but just with PMF, we've grown this almost 20% CAGR every month. Sorry, not CAGR, 20% compounded monthly annual rate for the last 14 months in a row, even with last month being the all-time high. So this is a beautiful example of not needing marketing, not needing social media, not needing TikTok, just solving pure user problems at the core of it. And by doing that, acquiring new business and of course, acquiring new revenue. So to sum it all, the playbook is simple. You need to hyper-localize basis your market, your user, delivery formats that are catered to every different user. You need to have hybrid networks. You can't just have a Pudo, you can't just have a door-to-door, you can't just have an instant next day, you can't just have a bulky. You need to have a hybrid network if you want Recommerce to work. Cost is important, pricing is important, but so is convenience. You can't have it one way or the other. You need to give both at a meaningfully different way and a meaningfully cheaper way to make this work. And at the end of it, it only works if you reduce friction. Your liquidity only comes when you're able to solve meaningful problems that really move the needle. So the closing takeaway, Recommerce is not a trend. If you look at the last few years and the projected next few years, Recommerce is stated to grow 3 times faster than regular commerce, whether it's retail, whether it's e-commerce. So as delivery service providers in this room, this is an area that will give you faster growth if you come into it early. And that's basically the magic of circular models. It's here to stay, and it's here to grow much, much faster, especially with Gen Z being sustainable first or sustainability first. This is going to be the new thing for the next 10 years of rapid growth. With that, I will stop for questions. I probably ended early than I had anticipated, but I still have room for a few questions. Before I end, just a quick reminder. If you had any cycles that you had bought during COVID that were not sold, the best time to list them in Singapore was yesterday. If you still haven't listed them, it's after this keynote. So yeah, with that, I'll pause. And if there are any questions, happy to take questions from the audience.